Okay. 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 You can see a bit of us are confused. Just understandable. This is a bit of a tricky question. This was on the Edexcel paper last year, paper one. Yeah. So we'll go through, this was June 2022. So we'll go through this one. I think it's been about 4 minutes now. So let's see. Yeah. So let's read it together. It says a first aid test has two parts, a theory test and a practical test. The probability of passing the theory test is 0.75. The probability of passing only one of the two parts is 0.36. The two events are independent. Work out the probability of passing the practical test. Okay, so the way I'm looking at this question, right, is clearly it's a probability question, and there's a bit of information about two different sets of things. There's a test, there's a theory part to the test, there's a practical part, and they've told us information about the probability of you passing the theory part of the test. Yeah. And then they tell us that the probability of passing only one of the two parts is 0.36. So that's not exactly one of the probabilities. It's more of a scenario. It's a combination of probabilities, isn't it? Yeah. Now, we need to work out the probability of us passing the practical test. Yeah. Now, this is a question for you guys, especially for those of us that were a bit stuck or a bit confused. This is a probability question. There's two parts to the probability. There's theory test, there's a practical test. What can I do to help me visualize this? Is there anything that I can draw? What do we draw when we're dealing with probability questions? What do we think? We've got a theory test and we've got a practical test. Anything that I can draw to help me visualize it? Exactly. Thank you very much, Naya. Let's draw a tree diagram. Yeah, this is a standard case of a probability tree question because we've got two parts to it, right? So I'm going to label this. I'm going to label this theory. I'm going to label this practical. Yeah, and we're going to draw a probability tree. Yeah, so let's do that. So I'm going to do this, like that, and then I'm going to do it like this here, like that, and then I'm going to draw a line like this, and I'm going to draw the branches there because I can't, for some reason, I'm just not good at drawing branches, so I need to draw one like this. Yeah, okay. And then let me zoom out a bit, actually. Zoom out a bit, and then put this down. Yeah, put this like this, and then I'll put it like this. Yeah, and then I'm going to do this part here. Yeah, so this is my tree. Obviously, I'm sure you guys can do it better than me, but it's all the same. Yeah, cool. And I've just seen your message, Ariel. Thank you very much. We need to draw probability tree. Yeah, right. Now there's two parts to it, and you can either do two things. You can either pass it, or you can either fail it. Yeah, so I'm going to put pass, fail here, and pass, fail here. I'm just going to put P and F for pass and failing. Yeah, all right. Now we know from the question the probability of us passing the theory test is 0.75. So for sure, a 0.75 goes here. Can somebody tell me what goes for failing then, please? What is the probability of us failing the theory test? Can somebody tell me? Exactly. Thank you very much, Naya. Naya, Quinette, 0.25 for sure, because we just do one minus that, don't we? Yeah, fine. All right. Now, the question asks us to work out the probability of us passing the practical test. So we don't know it. However, this is a number here. This is some number that we don't know. What do we do in maths when we have some number that we don't know? What do we use? What topic in maths do we use? Somebody tell me? Exactly. Thank you very much, Anaya. Thank you very much, Quinette. We use algebra. So I'm going to label this. Thank you very much, Joanna. Fantastic. I'm going to call this X, right? Because it's some number that I don't know. That's what we do in maths. We label it letters. Yeah. All right. Now, if the probability of me passing the practical test is X, what would the probability of me failing the practical test be? What would go here? Thank you very much. Exactly. It would be 1 minus X, isn't it? Right? It would be 1 minus X because remember, probabilities must add to 1. The same way we knew this was 0.25 was because it was 1 minus 0.75. So if this is X, this is 1 minus X. Does that make sense, guys? And well done to Quinette, Shay, Naya, Ariel. Fantastic. Yeah? Does this make sense? And for anybody that got maybe a bit different, does this make sense? No, I don't get it. No problem, no problem. So just for anybody that doesn't get it, okay. Now, we know the probability of us passing the theory test was 0.75. Yeah? Now, the reason why this one is 0.25 is because we do 1 minus 0.75. Do we agree? Yeah? For those of us that don't get it, do you agree with this? Yes or no? Yeah? Good stuff. Good stuff. Exactly. So if the probability of me passing is some value x, right? Then the failing must be 1 minus x, right? Because of this. It's just the same thing. It's just in terms of a letter, which is why it's a little bit ambiguous, but it's the same principle. The probability of me failing would be 1 minus the probability of us passing, which is x. So it's 1 minus x. Does that make sense now? Yeah? Okay. Cool. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. But why would it be x and not 0.36? Okay, because the probability of us passing only one of the two parts is 0.36. This is not the probability of me passing the practical test. If this said, here, the probability of passing, and I put a crosshair, and it says passes the practical test, then it would be fine. Yeah, but it doesn't say that. This is something different. It says the probability of only one of the two parts is 0.36. That is not the same as passing the practical test. So it does not go there. Does that make sense? This is very important. And for anybody else that was thinking that too, does this make sense? That sentence there does not say anything about passing the practical test. We need to find this. That's what the question says. So we know for sure it can't be 0.36 anyway, because that's what we need to solve it. Yeah? Does that make sense? Just gonna wait for just a few seconds and we'll continue. Yeah, okay, cool. So now we've done that, that's all good. Now remember, this is just the same thing on the bottom. So let me just put this here. This will be x here, and this will also be 1 minus x. Now we're gonna look at that sentence in question. Yeah, that third sentence there. The probability of passing only one of the two parts is 0.36. Now, when we have stuff like this, this is some sort of scenario. When I'm doing these types of questions in an exam, before I start using numbers, I like to ask myself, well, what is the scenario whereby this event can happen? What is the event whereby I only pass one of the two parts of the test? Well, one way that could happen is that I pass the theory, right? If I pass the theory, and I only pass one of the two parts, what must happen in the practical? What must happen in the practical? Exactly. Thank you very much, Quinette. Thank you very much, Naya. I must fail it, right? That's one way that can happen. Pass the theory and fail the practical. Yeah? All right. That's one way that can happen. Now, what would the other way be? Well, I would just have to fail the theory, right? Right? And I would just have to pass the practical. Yeah? Now, these are the only two ways that can happen. Pass the theory and fail the practical, or fail the theory and pass the practical. So now it's our job to figure out what those probabilities are in terms of our branches, right? And then make it equal to 0.36. Yeah. So option one, passing the theory or fail the practical. Now remember, when we're dealing with probability trees, we know how it works. We look along the probabilities of what we want. We need to pass the theory, so we go here, and then we go here, and then we're failing the practical. Yeah. All right. Now, so that tells me that option one, right? Passing the theory is 0.75. Failing the practical is 1 minus x. Now, there's and in the middle. Can somebody tell me what and is when we're dealing with probability, please? What does the word and mean when we're dealing with probability? Thank you very much, Shay. We times, yeah? We times. So this is going to be times, yeah? And then now, this is not too bad. I have to put a bracket here though. And all I'm going to do, I'm just going to expand this quickly. So I'm going to get 0.75 minus 0.75x, yeah? So this is option one. Passing the theory and failing the practical. Now I just do option two, yeah? So that's either failing the theory, right? We have to fail the theory, and then if we fail the theory, we have to pass the practical, don't we? Yeah. So therefore, option two would be equal to 0.25 for failing the theory and then we would times by x to pass the practical. And this is just 0.25x. Yeah? All right. So now we know, in terms of x, the probability of us passing the theory and failing the practical, or failing the theory and passing the practical, right? So this scenario, the probability of passing only one of the two parts happens by either option number 1 or option number 2. Yeah. Now we know that 1 or 2 is the event of us passing one of the probabilities, or one of the two parts, which is 0.36. So I'm going to say 1 or 2 is equal to 0.36. Yeah. Now we know that option 1 is 0.75 minus 0.75x. And we know that option 2 is 0.25x. And we know that this is equal to 0.36. Now we have this word or now. Can somebody tell me what the word or means when we're dealing with probability? Exactly. Thank you very much, Quinette and Naya. Naya, we add, don't we? So I'm going to put a plus sign here. So we get this equation here. Now remember what x is. X is our probability of us passing the practical, which is what they want us to do. So we just need to solve this equation in terms of x and we're done. Yeah? Now when we get here, it's finished. It's easy. Yeah? So let's look. What do we have? I've got minus 0.75x plus a 0.25x. I could combine those two to give me minus 0.5x. Yep. And then I still have this on the other side. And then now, remember, to solve an equation, we're just going to move this over. It's going to be minus 0.5x is equal to 0.36 minus 0.75. Yep. Minus 0.75. And then obviously this is just 36 minus 75, but just with a point. So this would be equal to, remember, this would be negative though, minus 0.39, yeah? And then minus 0.5x here. Now remember, to get x now, we just divide both sides by that minus 0.5, yeah? Let me just see here. Not quite. I can see somebody said, wouldn't it be minus 0.55? Not quite, because if you think about it, it's just minus 75 plus 25. This is just minus 50, isn't it? But with the 2 points like that, it would just be 0.50. Does that make sense? To make sure. No problem, no problem, no problem, no problem. Yeah, no problem. Cool. So continuing, we've got minus 0.39. We're going to divide this by minus 0.5. Now, we've got 2 negatives here. We know that 2 negatives make a positive. So it's just 0.39 divided by 0.5. Yeah? Now, we're dividing by 0.5. Yeah? What does that mean when we're dealing with a number? What are we actually doing? So I can say, for example, 1 divided by 0.5. Exactly. Thank you very much, Naya. Thank you very much, Quinette. 1 divided by 0.5 is the same as timesing by 2. Because what you're saying is, well, how many 0.5s go into 1? It's 2, isn't it? Yeah? So dividing by 0.5 is the same as timesing by 2. So x is equal to 0.39 times by 2, which is equal to 0.78. And this is the probability of us passing the practical test, 0.78. Anybody get this correct? I'll zoom out a bit so you guys can see all of the working out.